Okay, so you can see here that we've got a case study which outlines the methodology of how Apple releases a product each year. You can see that the question then is analyze, so that means looking at in some detail here, making sure you're referring to the case study, means using connectives to develop the points that you've made. The benefit, so we're not looking at downsides, we're looking at only the upsides. So we're only looking at the advantages to Apple, not the disadvantages of using price skimming for the iPhone 6s. So we're only looking at the advantage. And notice here also it says the benefit, singular. There's not benefits, it's a singular point here. So they're looking for one benefit, and then you to then go forth and then elaborate on that benefit using connectives. You can see here then I have updated a few points that I think are relevant. Firstly, that there are huge sales of their products, so there is a huge demand for their new iPhones. I think that's relevant. Secondly, customers queuing outside shops to get one. That tells me that they've got a really loyal customer base. They've got customers who are happy to wait patiently to queue and are probably going to be outside the shop every year waiting for the next version of the Apple iPhone. Finally, it also has here a comment about 3D touch technology, and that this is not used on any other competitive smartphones. I think that's a very relevant detail as well, because that then gets to the heart of why they might be able to use price skimming. So if I started with this, I would start by, for instance, starting off by saying Apple use price skimming. So Apple use price skimming to set a high price for their new phones on release. Now that obviously there is just a starting point, okay? That's just over there, a starting point. So what we're doing now is thinking about, okay, so if they're using price skimming as their high price for their phones, okay, that's not really, there's nothing particularly specific in the case study there. So we would like to start using some of the details we've got within the case study here. So we will write here, Apple's phones, as stated in the case study, have a high demand, which means they can justify high prices. So we've now followed that up with the fact that there is, it says in the case study, how they've got a high demand, which means they can now justify higher prices. That's important, because what I'm saying is here, Apple use price skimming, they charge a high price, and now here the key bit is the fact that the case study says they have a high demand, that then justifies that high price. Now I think the fact that I've now used that reference to the case study, I think I've already moved into level 2. Because I think that was a level 1 response. They used price skimming to set a high price for their new phones on release. But now that I've started talking about the case study, I think I've now moved this into a level 2 response. But I'm going to continue, because obviously to get to level 3 I need to use this substantially. So I'm going to go to here now, customers queuing outside shops. I think that means they're loyal. So I'm going to write here, Apple customers are loyal due to queuing as evidence, which means they will pay top price. Okay, so there's now another element that I've brought in from the case study. Now if I go back up to here, there's also a third point I think I can refer to the case study about this, to the fact that they've got unique technology that is not on any of the other smartphones. Another reason why people will pay a high price is because of the USP. There's some key terminology being used. Unique selling point, the USP of the 3D touch technology. So there we've got now that unique reference to that unique technology that again, and I brought here, to use this tech, they have to buy the iPhone, which kind of then justifies why they would pay that high price. Okay, so then I want to develop this further. Originally this question had a few more lines on the next slide. I'm just going to write underneath, you get the idea. So that then means this has consequences. Okay, we talk about connectives. So what does this mean? Therefore, as a result of, this means that. So I'm going to use this means that, that's my connective. This means that they will receive more sales revenue when the product is launched. And then final development, this is this analysis, developing our points, talking about the consequences. Our final analysis then is here, when the product is launched. Over time, the price will be reduced, because that's what price skimming is, high price at the start and then reduced. The price will, over time the price will be reduced when new versions released and are released, generating further revenue. Okay, so now that's my answer. Let's now think about the mark scheme, which is it in context? Yes, it is. There is clear context here about the fact that they've got high demand, the fact that people are willing to queue, and the 3D touch technology. So that's straight away into level 2. Have I then referenced it substantially? I think there are 3 separate references there, so I think it's substantial. And have I analysed it using connectives? Well, actually, I think I have down here where I talk about how that means they'll make more sales revenue when it's first launched, and that over time they will then reduce the price further, and then that will generate further revenue. And so as a result, I think that's a level 3 response. Whether they get 5 or 6 marks would be down to the discretion of the examiner. I certainly think it would be near the top end.